Hey guys, welcome to my patch 7.3 balanced Druid crash course for PvP. Keep in mind I'm not a pro or anything. I'm just some random guy that plays every class, every spec, and I think Boomkin's my main spec on my Druid, so there are better balanced Druids out there than me. Hodded, for example, I know he's high rated. That's the only guy I can really name off the top of my head, but in this video, we're going to be going over our spells, our main spells, what spells you're most likely going to be using in most PvP situations, honor talents, normal talents, any artifact traits that are really noteworthy, and rotation and your burst. So, getting into spells, Bark Skin reduces the damage you take by 20% and reduces the delay on your spell casting. This is like our one defensive. Even though it is really strong, it's our only defensive we really have outside of Bear Form. And Bear Form increases your armor by 200% and stamina by 55%. I'm not sure which one gives more armor. Okay, so Boomkin Form actually does give more armor, which is actually kind of surprising. So the reason you would go Bear Form, though, is that you do get a decent bit more health in Bear Form. But other than that, your armor doesn't really go up that much anymore. Cat form, you don't really use it unless you want the speed increase or sprint that you do get from it. Dash activates cat form, increases your movement speed by 70%. Obviously, it's just like a rogue sprint, except it puts you in cat form. Entangling roots a target in place for 30 seconds. Damage may cancel the effect. We'll talk about that later. Healing touch is our heal that you can use outside of your Boomkin form. If you're like not getting attacked or anything, because regrowth is our kind of main heal, I'd suggest it over healing touch because it's a lot faster cast and it heals for about the same. But if you're not like in combat and you're really trying to get full health, then healing touch is probably the one you want to use. And incarnation, improved Boomkin form that increases the damage of all your spells by 35%, causes your lunar strike and solar wrath to generate 50% additional astral power. Lasts 30 seconds. So this is like our one offensive cooldown. Basically makes it so we hit harder. Innervate, don't really want to talk about that. Doesn't really do anything anymore because we don't go Lunar Strike, call down a strike of lunar energy, causing 226,000 arcane damage to the target and 79,000 damage to all other enemies within 5 yards. This is one of our main abilities. It's empowered by your Star Surge. It's weaved into our rotation. You're not going to use it that much unless you do get a Moonkin Frenzy, which I'll talk about later. Mighty Bash is a talent. It's basically just a Hodge that's melee form. Right there. Okay, well, you're immune to it. Basically just stun someone for 5 seconds. Moonfire. A quick beam of lunar light burns the enemy for 121,000 damage, then an additional 699,000 over 22 seconds, usable while in bear form. This is one of our main abilities. It's one of our... I've talked about this ability a lot. Yeah, Moonfire and Sunfire are basically the same thing, except Moonfire does slightly more damage, and Sunfire applies an AoE dot compared to normal. Like normal, not AoE dot. So, okay, Moonkin form. Talking about this, shapeshift into astral form, increasing your arcane and nature damage by 10%, increases your armor by 300%, and you have a single target attacks against you have a 15% chance to make your next lunar strike instant. So this is what I was talking about, where you're not really going to use lunar strike unless you get hit by melee or ranged. And then you get this proc, which basically makes it so this is an instant cast. Otherwise, most of the time you're going to be using Wrath and Star Surge and spreading your dots to everyone. And New Moon, which I'll talk about later. Which is actually right now. New Moon is your artifact ability. It comes whenever you get your Scythe of Elune. Basically, it generates astral power and it ramps up in damage. So you'll see there, the first one did 300,000. The most recent one did 600,000. And that one did 3 million. And it goes like that, and once you go new moon, half moon, full moon, it resets to new moon, and then goes back to half moon, full moon, just does that over and over again. And it's basically just a astral power generator. You're going to want to use this. I'll talk about that in the rotation, actually. Prowl is our one stealth that's in cat form. You can use it even as a boomkin, basically just a stealth. Regrowth is our heal, don't really want to talk about that. Rejuve is a heal that you can get if you take the Restoration Affinity, which I do take. Talk about that later. Remove corruption. Nullifies corrupting effects on the friendly target, removing all curse and poison effects. This would be good against a assassination rogue. Maybe a warlock if they put a curse of fragility on you. Any warlock that can put a curse on, you could cleanse it with this, or any assassination rogue that just applies all their poisons, you can just cleanse all of them. So that's like the only noteworthy things that remove corruption would really be like worth using. Solar beam. Summons a beam of solar light over an enemy's target location, interrupting target and silencing all enemies within the beam for 8 seconds. Basically, I'll just show you guys. It's that thing right there. You guys probably see it a lot, and it silences people. It's really annoying. Solar Wrath is our main ability. Hurl a ball of solar energy at the target, dealing 189,000 nature damage. This is our main ability, I'd say. Basically, it's like Frostbolt, but for balanced druids. Like, every class has one of these. It's just kind of our main ability. Generates astral power, does damage. So, talking about Starfall. A lot of you guys ask why I don't take Starfall. And that's because Starfall got nerfed pretty heavily in PvP. I think the not noteworthy damage, but the damage it does, or the damage it did compared to the damage it does now is pretty much nothing. In patch 7.1 or 7.2, you could Starfall and it'd hit for like 50,000. And then that would make your dots hit for like 100,000. Now in PvP, instance PvP, you probably do like 10,000 to 20,000 every tick of Starfall. And then the empowerment only makes your dots hit for like 50,000 or 40,000. So if you want to go for that kind of AoE build, AoE kind of do spread damage build, then go for it. But otherwise than that, if you're just trying to focus one target down, I wouldn't suggest using Starfall all that much anymore. Star Surge is our other main ability. Launches surge of stellar energies at the target, dealing 527 astral damage. Also grants you lunar and solar empowerments, which increase the damage of your next lunar and solar strike by 73% respectively. You can accumulate up to 3 of these each. Basically, what it's telling you is that it does a lot of damage, and it buffs your Solar Wrath and Lunar Strike, which are your other 2 main abilities. Sunfire, already talked about it. It's like Moonfire, but it applies an AoE dot to anyone around them. So if I Sunfire this guy, it's going to apply it to those 2 around them. Swift Amend is a instant heal that you get from your Restoration Infinity, which I do take. Travel Form is Travel Form, increases your movement speed. Wild Charge, it's honor talent. Everything else is kind of an honor talent. So now that we've gone over most of our spells, let's talk about the talents and what situations you do want to take certain talents. I do take Star-Lord for Battlegrounds. For 2v2 arena, I would take Warrior of Loon, mainly because it makes your next 3 Lunar Strikes instant cast. This basically means you can use, if you do have a lot of empowered Lunar Strikes, you can just use this and get 3 instant casts off that do a decent amount of damage. I'd say like 300,000 each. Non-critting, of course. Force of Nature, I don't even think I've used in PvP, so I can't say anything about it, really. If you have used it, let me know if it's good or not, but personally, I haven't tried it, and I don't think it's that great. Talking about the second row of talents, Wild Charge, I think I just like this just because it's the most versatile. You can fly to people if they're an ally like this. You can leap backwards with Moonkin form. You can leap to someone with Cat form. You can charge someone and then immobilize them with Bear form. And you can fly in the air with Travel form. Displacer Beast is probably the other talent you'd want to take here. Teleports you up to 25 yards forward, activating Cat form and increasing your movement speed by 50%. This is like kind of a getaway, but it is a double the cooldown of your Wild Charge. But if you want to take it over Wild Charge, and go for it. But personally, I like Wild Charge. I did use Displacer Beast earlier in the expansion, but now I do take Wild Charge. I haven't used Renewal yet. I know I should. Instantly heals you for 30% of your max health, usable in all shape-shift forms. So if you use this in Bear form, I'm assuming it would heal you for more than it would with Boomkin form. So if you really want the self-heals, then go for it. It's probably good single target. Or just like 1v1 situations. Talking about the third row of talents, you probably want to go between Guardian Affinity and Restoration Affinity. I personally like Restoration Affinity because you have Swift Amend of Regrowth and Healing Touch and Rejuve. That's why I take it. And healing. Well, I haven't even used Healing Touch, even though I do take it, because I'm not sure it heals for that much more. And I do like the reduced cast time on regrowth, but your other choice is Guardian Affinity. Reduces all damage taken by 6%, and then it grants you these abilities, which is Frenzied Regen, which heals you. What's that? Heals you 50% of all damage taken in the last 5 seconds over 3 seconds. Minimum of 5% of your max health. Iron Fur, which is good against melees, which increases your armor. Mangle and Thrash, which aren't really that great. There's kind of abilities that they give you in case you need to stay in bear form and still want to do some kind of damage. For level 60 talents, just take Mighty Bash. The other ones are pretty bad. Typhoon, maybe if you're running Eye of the Storm, you want to knock people off the edge. Mass Entanglement, if you really need the roots for your healers or something. But other than that, Mighty Bash is your way to go. And then 75 talents, increases the damage. Soul of the Forest increases the damage bonus from lunar and solar empowerment by an additional 20%, reduces the astral power cost of Starfall by 20. This would be good if you're trying to run a Starfall build where you're just trying to do spread dot damage, or if you don't really like using Incarnation and don't mind using Celestial Alignment, then I would suggest Soul of the Forest. Otherwise, I'd just suggest taking Incarnation because you do have an Honor talent that reduces the cooldown of it by 60 seconds, which makes it a 2-minute cooldown instead of 3-minute. So a 2-minute cooldown. Counting the uptime of this, it's a 1 minute 30-second cooldown on a 35% spell damage buff. So there you go. Stellar Flare, it's not really that great. I've tried it. It's like 50,000 damage dot, and I'd say it's good if like you're running a damage over time build like Affliction Walk, Boomy, Shaman or something like that. But other than that, I'd just take these two. For level 90 talents, you can run any of these, I'd say. For 2s, I'd run Astral Communion, mainly because it just instantly gives you 75 astral power. That, plus putting your dots up on someone, gives you 2 Star Surges, so if you want the Star Surges, then go for it. For Battlegrounds, I do like Shooting Stars, mainly because if you know how to Sunfire, like in a big group, you'll be able to get a decent amount of extra damage and a decent amount of extra astral power just from Sunfiring someone, because that gives you a 10% chance to do those Shooting Star things that are coming down from the sky right now. Blessing of the Ancients, this is just kind of like, if you don't want to fuck with the other two and you just kind of want to have a passive playstyle, then go for it. Basically makes it so you generate more astral power passively. On to the other talents. I haven't used Fury of Loon. You could use it if you are taking the Deep Roots talent, which I'll talk about later. I haven't used it. I've seen someone use it before, and it does do decent damage if someone actually stays in your Entangling Roots, but other than that, I feel like it's kind of a waste. Stellar Drift increases Starfall's radius by 30%, Starfall damage by 50%, and allows you to cast while moving within Starfall's radius. This is good if you really feel like you're going to get focused, I guess, so you can cast while moving. If you do use Starfall, you can just use this. Cast while you're in your Starfall. Starfall does extra damage, radius is increased. Your dots will do extra damage, so if you think you're going to get focused a lot, then I would suggest taking this talent. Other than that, Nature's Balance basically just refreshes the duration of your dots whenever you Wrath or Lunar Strike someone, so that's the incentive to taking that talent. So let's talk about new talents. Gladiator's Medallion. It's your trinket. I've talked about this in every single one of my class guides. Just prefer this over any other. Train of Thought, Mind Quickness, Initiation, all these are the same for every caster. I just prefer Mind Quickness for certain classes. Train of Thought, if you're running like a heavy, if you're not getting focused or you think you're not going to get focused, then more power to you to use this, but I just like the haste increase for Mind Quickness. Iron Feather Armor. Moonkin form increases your armor by an additional 25%, reduces your chance to be critically hit by melee attacks by 20%. If you're running a kind of passive playstyle and you don't really want to be shapeshifting a lot, I would suggest using this, mainly because increased armor reduces the chance you'll be critical strike. It's like, why would you not use it? Protector of the Grove. I haven't seen anyone use this. I feel like for what it does and for the amount of mana that you have and the amount of regrowth you can actually get off, it's not really worth it. Reduces the cast time by 50% and will always have a critical effect. So even without Protector of the Grove, that's 3, 2, 5. So 5 regrowths before I go boom. 6 if you wait a little bit. This is the same in PvP, keep in mind. Doesn't seem that worth to me over the Iron Feather or Celestial Guardian. And let me talk about Celestial Guardian. While in bear form, you take 10% less damage from spells and receive 20% increased healing. I'd take this for competitive 2s or 3s. Reason being, increased healing, 10% reduced damage. That on top of your health increase and armor increase from your bear form does make it better than staying in Moonkin form. Talking about the 4th row. Celestial Downpour, don't take it anymore. Just wouldn't suggest it. Your 2 talents that you're going to want to pick between are Eclipse, which reduces the cooldown of your Celestial Alignment, or Chosen of a Loon by 60 seconds, which basically makes it so you can burst more. Incarnation Chosen of a Loon summons a beam of light at your target at your location, granting you 70% reduction in silence and interrupts for 10 seconds. So again, this is just kind of like reduced cooldown, reduced chance of getting interrupted, and if you do get interrupted, it's going to be for a lot shorter than what you normally would. If you want to play my favorite spec slash build slash kind of play style where you just kind of slam your dick on the keyboard, you kind of run Crescent Burn. Using Moonfire on a target already afflicted by Moonfire's damage over time effect deals an additional 35% additional damage. This mixed with this, which gives you 25% damage, stacks up to 5 times, is a 150% increase to your Moonfire damage, which basically makes it so, let's see, let's just press Moonfire on this guy 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So right now I'm hitting the target for 280,000. In PvP, that's probably 200,000. Spammable ability, instant cast, does 200,000, applies a dot to someone. You can spam this as much as you want on someone, and it's basically hitting as much as a Wrath. I'd say a little bit less than a Wrath, but you get my drift here. It does a lot of damage. It's an instant cast. It's between Crescent Burn and Eclipse. It's your pick. Pick your poison. For the second bottom row, I don't think the other 2 talents are really that noteworthy. Moonkin, however, is really good. Whenever you Star Surge, all allies within 40 yards have their spell critical strike chance increased by 15% for 12 seconds. It's just a 15% crit strike increase to you and any ranged spellcaster. Why would you not take this talent? That's my question. And then for the bottom row talent, this is probably the most diverse out of all of them. So for Cyclone, you're going to want to run this if you are running 2s, 3s, or you just really want the CC in a Battleground. In 2s or 3s, if you find yourself having a team that's kind of lacking CC, then I would suggest this, or if you just really want the CC, then go for it. If you're running Battlegrounds and you kind of like rooting people, I guess, I don't know, rooting people on solar, what's it called, solar flare? Solar beam. If you really like rooting people and solar beaming them, then take Deep Roots, because this makes it so your damage will no longer break entangling roots, which means you can basically just root someone. Fuck, what's this called? Solar beam. You root someone, solar beam them, they're stuck in a silence for 8 seconds. And then, personally, my favorite, swarms a target with fairies, disarming the enemy, preventing the use of any weapons, and reducing movement speed by 30%. The reason I take this is because melees are a pain in the ass as a boomkin, and this probably counters them the most, and it's a 8-second disarm. That's why I take it. That's why I take that talent. So let's talk about your rotation. Ideally, your rotation as a balanced druid is to apply your dots, keep your charges of new moon / half moon / full moon from getting capped, and then weaving in your Solar Wrath and Star Surge, and then using Lunar Strike whenever you do take damage. So I'm trying to think, does this guy hit me? No. Do you hit me? No. I don't think any of these guys really hit me. Maybe this guy does, I don't know. Anyway, so ideally, we'll do it on, I guess we'll just do it on the raid target. Ideally, what you're going to want to do, okay, that guy does hit you, is keep your, what I do is I like to at least get my full moon there, and then let it get a few stacks. Usually, if someone's focusing you, you will be able to get a few Lunar Strike instant casts. Make sure your dots don't fall off. It's not really that bad to reapply your dots as a boomkin, since we do have the increased damage from our artifact trait. outside of that, you basically just want to Solar Wrath and Star Surge a lot. And then keep your full moons from capping. Basically, this is our rotation right now. It's not that hard. It's pretty simple. If you can't do it, then I don't know what to tell you. You basically just Solar Wrath, Star Surge, and Full Moon / use your artifact trait whenever it's up. And then whenever you do get the proc from your Moonkin form, which reduces the cast time of your Lunar Strike, you're going to want to use that. That's the Boomkin kind of rotation outside of burst. In your burst, it's the same, I'd say. Another noteworthy thing is your Moonfire and Sunfire increase the arcane and nature damage your target takes by 6%. Other than that, there's really nothing that's huge here. Yeah, nothing really that's, I guess, groundbreaking. I guess the only other noteworthy thing is this, which is during Incarnation, chosen on a Loon, each damaging bounce spell you grant, each spell that you cast gives you 1% haste. So what I'm going to do here is pop cooldowns on, I guess we'll pop it on this guy, and I'll show you guys the amount of haste that you can get in your burst. So when you're bursting, you're going to want to, I don't know, I'll just show you guys. You basically just do the same shit you always do. You just kind of use it in your empowered state. So basically, you're going to do a lot more damage. You're going to want to use Solar Wrath, use your moons, use your Star Surges. And the thing is, your Solar Wrath and your Lunar Strike are going to do extra damage. And if you find yourself kind of running out of Astral Power, then I would suggest trying to use your Lunar Strike in Moonkin or Incarnation form. You'll see that over the time of that burst, my haste did go up a decent amount. I got 23% haste by the end of it, so that's Boomkin. Ending thoughts about this. It's pretty fun, and I'd suggest it. It's a tanky caster spec. It's like Warlock, but way more mobile, I'd say, but way less self-heals. Outside of that, if you're getting focused, just go in bear form. Try to run. Go in bear form, use bark skin, try to root people, try to self-heal yourself, try to just play to the class's advantages. Other than that, it's pretty fun. I would suggest it. I'm going to make a video here soon of just me casting Moonfire and Sunfire and seeing how much damage I could do, because I think that's the funnest part about this spec, is just being able to hit pretty hard with 2 instant cast spells. But as always, thank you guys for watching. This was my crash course for Balanced Druid PvP. If you guys like it, give it a thumbs up. It helps me out a lot. If you guys have any questions, comments, tips, concerns, anything like that, let me know in the comment section below. Let me know what videos you guys want to see. Let me know anything, really. Try to follow my social media. Try to catch me live streaming. As always, thank you guys for watching. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.